Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the First Class, Second Place podcast. I'm your host, Jason Enrique, and we got another first class guest up in the building today. But before we continue, I want to remind everybody that we are live in Bravery Studios in Garfield, New Jersey. Shout out to Najee behind the glass. Good to see you again, Najee. I feel like I haven't seen you in a minute, man. Feeling good? Feeling healthy now? Nice. I'm glad to hear that, brother. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, like I said, we have a first class guest up in the building today. This guy he's been doing a lot on the internet. He's making a name for himself in film, in content creation, everything. When he walks into a room, he's a force to be reckoned with. So let's just introduce him, ladies and gentlemen. Zeus Sosias is in the building. What is going on, Zeus?
Thank you, my brother. Thank you for having me, man.
Hey, man, it's the honor's all mine. Trust me. Like I love when people appreciate when they come on the show and everything. But honestly, the honor is really on mine because, like, who am I? I'm just a regular guy with just a tiny little podcast that people just want to come on. And so I guess I appreciate it nonetheless. It's very humbling.
And you got to give yourself some credit, man. This is amazing podcast, man.
Thank you, man. I'm trying to do it, man.
Myself, so I'm honored.
I'm trying to do a better job of giving myself credit. I'm getting there. Okay. But
I get it. Yeah. I'm super humble myself and meek, so I totally get it.
Well, let's start there then. So let's start with the humble beginnings. Yeah. I mean, first of all, I love the jacket. I think that shit is fly right there, man. Even though they didn't do shit in the World Series. I don't know what's going on with you, Aaron Judge, Aaron Boone, but you know what? That's not that kind of podcast
hey,
right
man,
now.
You know, you got to look at the positives. At least we made it there.
At least we made it, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, just because you got to date the prom queen doesn't mean you got to go home with her. Anyway.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You get the idea.
Anyway, so starting point right there. So here's the interesting thing about you. Like, you're from the Bronx, but your nationality, Puerto Rican and Swedish. How the hell did that happen? That's like Daddy Yankee going to IKEA or some shit like that.
Yeah. Right. So actually, I'm from Long Island originally.
Okay, all right.
From Central Islip.
Long Island. All right. Yeah, I'm pretty familiar with Long Island because of my day job. I go there very often. So.
Okay. Yeah. Gotcha. I mean, I'm city based because all my family's from the city, right?
Gotcha.
My family's actually originally from Harlem. My dad's originally from Harlem. But it's a really funny question that you have, right?
Yeah.
So both my mom and my dad were both born in New York.
Okay.
So the Puerto Rican Swedish thing is like only in New York, right?
That's true. Yeah.
So both my mom and my dad, we were both born in New York in two completely different areas. My father was born in Harlem. My mom was born downtown, right?
Okay.
My mother, went through a somewhat hard childhood because she lost both of her parents. And, as any young adult, she was, trying to find her way. So she was actually dancing for a while.
Wow.
In like the Long Island area, like, when go-go bars was a thing in the 80s, it was that type of thing. It wasn't like strip clubs like it is now. You know what I mean? It's more just like, hey... it
was a little bit more elegant.
It was more elegant, exactly.
Gotcha.
And my father met her there, and he was 15 years older.
Oh wow!
Than my mom.
That's kind of similar to what my parents were, because my father met my. I don't exactly know what the ages that they met, but I will say this: when I was born, my mom was just a week away from being 20, and my dad was 34. So there was a huge age difference there. I always used to joke around like, "Hey, Pop, were you able to bag Mom because she didn't know better?" No, but he got that sense of humor. But he understand that I was just being facetious. But yeah, that was a big age difference, and it applies to your parents as well.
Yeah. I felt like it was almost more common, back in the day than it like is now. I mean, you still see it, but. So they met. My mom has always had a dream of being an actress, right?
Right.
And when she met my father, she couldn't necessarily follow that dream. My father was kind of, I don't want to say typical, but, he's a jealous Puerto Rican man,
Gotcha.
Didn't want her to get into to acting. So she kind of put that on hold. She got pregnant with me. She ended up leaving my father and moving away. And my father actually ended up passing away from heart problems when I was about 5 years old.
Wow.
Yeah,
My condolences. That same thing with my father. He passed away about 7 years ago from a heart attack, and so I understand. Like, obviously, it doesn't compare to losing him at such a young age. But now, were you a spitting image of your dad? Like, did you look like him? Was he a tall guy as well?
It's funny because
What are you, like 6'4" or something?
Yeah, I'm 6'4".
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because a lot of people say that I look like the Puerto Rican version of my mom.
Okay.
I look a lot like my mom. I do have features of my father as well, but
Yeah.
definitely look a lot like my mother.
So
Yeah.
usually, when in the beginning, when I usually ask people like when it comes to something that they're doing, whether it's acting or music or whatever the case may be, you pretty much answered it right there. I mean, your mother was an actress, and I guess more or less you kind of caught the bug from her as well. And I take it that because she was already in that industry, that you were very performative at a very early age, and she allowed that.
Absolutely. She definitely like encouraged it.
Yeah, that was the word I was looking for. Thank you.
Yeah, she definitely encouraged it. So, she actually went to school for acting when I was a kid.
Okay.
She went to University of Arts in Philadelphia. I used to go with her all the time. She used to bring me with her. Her friends from school, her colleagues used to watch me while she was in class. So I was around that atmosphere pretty much like all my life. She did a lot of theater when I was growing up, so I would be there right there at rehearsals with her. In fact, I was in a play with her when I was a kid.
Nice.
This play on tidy endings right there in the college in University of the Arts. So I definitely caught the bug there and took a lot of classes, right? Had me in acting classes, improv classes, stuff like that. But also the elementary school I attended, I had a teacher that was super huge Shakespeare fan.
Okay.
So when we used to do plays in school, they were always Shakespeare plays. So I'm very, I'm very familiar with like Shakespeare and stuff like that. And did Midsummer Night's Dream a couple times, Twelfth Night, stuff like that. So, yeah.
So I find that so fascinating because, not only do you come from a parent that is actually in that realm, in that world, but you were pretty much classically trained at a very early age. So I understand now a little bit more where your passion is coming from, because unfortunately we live now in a society, especially a microwave society, where people are in it for the wrong reasons. And I can't tell you that I could probably name off at least 5 people off the top of my hand where they started doing acting, but they're in it for the wrong reasons. They're doing it for clout, they're doing it for money, they're doing it for fame, and so on and so on. But you know what? If that's the route they want to go, fine. But what I've learned in life is that if you're not truly passionate about what you do, and if you had actually put the work in, the consistency is not going to be there, and you're not going to last. So, and it goes to show that you've been doing this from a very early age, and you're still doing it now. So this is just who you are. This is who Zeus is. This is what you were supposed to be when you were put on this earth.
Well, it's funny because I went on quite the hiatus.
I think we all do at one point when you're creative. Because listen, I've mentioned before on the show that I used to do music, and there was definitely where I had to take a hiatus, and then eventually it just it turned into a retirement because I got in it for the wrong reasons. But when you care about something, when you want to do something that you have a dream of, and especially in the arts, it's important to be consistent, but you need that mental break because you don't want to overextend yourself and wear yourself thin, and people will implode. And what good is that going to do for you or anybody else?
Exactly. In my particular case, right, like life happened, right? I had kids at a very young age. Okay. I have 2 daughters. They're finally at an age now, they're 16 and 13 now. Wow. Shout out Adelis, Tatiana.
Oh.
They're at an age now where they're a bit older, so I can actually take that time and really, hone in on my craft, take classes, work on independent films when they're available to me as well. But you're absolutely right. A lot of people do start out with the wrong reasons, thinking, oh, this is going to be a lucrative career move for me, where in the beginning, as many actors know, it doesn't really work that way, right? You need to really work your way up. And I mean, I'm not even there yet, right? I'm still working to eventually get there, but to me, it's not really a rush. I have such a passion for it. And even it's funny because I've been reading a lot of books lately by like I'm reading one right now by oh gosh, I can't remember his first name, but his last name is Stanislavski.
Okay.
There's a book he wrote called An Actor Prepares, and I'm in the middle of reading that right now. And normally books like these, I would kind of be like kind of zoning out as I'm trying to read them, but this one I'm just like hooked. I'm reading and I'm just completely hooked. And it's that passion, right? When you're reading up on something or learning something that you're passionate about,
Yeah.
you're locked in and you want to know every single detail about it. It's that like research piece, and I'm really enjoying the process, I would say, for sure.
Nice. Now, when you said that you had to take that brief hiatus,
Yeah.
where did life pivot you right then and there? Because like for me, when I took a break from my creative process and I still didn't know what I wanted to do in my life, I got into truck driving, and that's essentially what I still do as my 9 to 5. But at that point in my life right now, I'm trying to quit that double life, so to speak. But tell me about how you had to basically take your break and also kind of pivot your life because now you're a father at this point.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny because we have very similar paths, I think. So what happened was because I became a father at such a young age, right?
Yeah.
I was into the arts, right? I was actually into music at that particular time of my life, right before I had my kids.
Okay.
And well, I had to find a job that was going to support me and my family. So I ended up working at a factory. And it was funny at the time. I kind of thought, this is the ceiling for me. I'm like, this is, I didn't think I was capable of much more at the time.
Yeah.
I would say I didn't really have the best self-esteem, I kind of worked there and thought like, I'm just going to make my way up in this factory, and that was going to be it. So then eventually, when the factory went under, I had to find something else. I got into school bus driving to get my CDL, and then eventually I started driving the city buses in Delaware. So like the equivalent to like MTA.
Yeah. I have a CDL too, so.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I still use it to this day.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome, man. That's awesome.
Like, it's all right.
I let mine expire. I let mine expire. I'm just like, whatever.
I'm just using it to pay the bills. But
Yeah.
But please continue.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. I wish I should have kept mine as well. But yeah, man, I was doing the bus driving thing, and again, just like with the factory, I thought this was gonna be it. It was just like, civil service type of jobs, that type of thing. And that's all it was going to be for me. And then one day, as time went on, I became a single dad, and, both of my daughters were staying with me. So I had to find a schedule that was a little bit more conducive to me having 2 daughters, right? Very young at that time. So I applied for the bank, where I'm actually currently working. I've been
you're a frauds operator or something.
Yeah,
like that,
yeah. I've been with Capital One since 2015.
I'm a proud customer.
Nice. There we go.
Yeah. What's up with the credit limit? Can you bump it up a little bit?
I'm working on the credit card side,
Yeah. But it's funny you mentioned that, because you kind of take me back to all right. Here's a little story time for everybody. Like I mentioned before, when I was, trying to make my mark in the world by doing music, and it didn't pan out, and I took a break, and then eventually led to retirement. There was a brief moment where I was at a crossroads, and I didn't know what to do. So I actually went down to Florida, and I figured I would just go down there to figure things out, what I want to do with my life. My brother gets me a job at a valet at a beach hotel, and as soon as my first day working there, I felt like this humbling experience where I was like, wow, because when I was doing the whole music thing, I already had this grandiose personality about myself. I thought I was holier than thou. I had this inflated ego that was unjustified and stuff like that. And then here I am parking cars for fucking spoiled people. And it's just like, where did I go wrong? But here's the crazy thing. I was only 22, 23, 24 at the time. And so I'm still very young. I have the whole world ahead of me. But when you're stuck in that mind space, you think that that's the ceiling. Like, you don't know where else to go from there, because and it's just crazy looking in hindsight 2020, because I'm 38 now. And I look back then and I thought that life was fucking over for me. And now I found out at 36, I should say, that life is just beginning. So it's just mind blowing to think that.
So true, man. This is so true. And the fact that you even realize that at 22, right? And you realize, wow, where am I in life?
Right.
It's great, because it took me a lot longer. You know, I was like, almost 30 when I came to that realization, like, what am I doing with my life? Like, where's my life going? That type of thing. But like, the important thing to realize is it's never too late. I learned this just fairly recently.
Right. And you had more pressure on you because you're already a dad of two children.
Exactly.
You're already in charge of two people that are automatically more important than you are.
Yep.
So I can imagine that pressure that's going on. So, and you know, we don't have to get too deep on this in this part right now, but you had just mentioned that there was a time where you became a single dad. So going back to when you weren't a single dad, when you were, you know, in a relationship or married or whatever the case may be, and your father, these two beautiful daughters, how much of a burden was it to your former partner that it was like maybe too much of a burden, and then afterwards it just kind of had to go your separate ways and then find each other on your own?
Yeah. I think it came to a point, right? There were a couple things that happened, you know, within that relationship where we just kind of had to split apart, right? But I think ultimately we had two completely separate goals. I feel like she was at a point, and she had gotten to a point where she had gotten comfortable with how things were, where I was kind of looking forward. You know, I was looking up over that hill, up over that horizon, trying to figure out what's the next thing that I want to do, and kind of realizing these dreams that I had since I was a kid. You know what I mean? Yeah. Which, you know, of course, acting was the main one. And kind of thinking back on that and reflecting and saying, you know, this is something that I've always wanted to do. I need to pursue this at some point or another. And this person that I'm with is not someone that's going to support that. So it's extremely important to have that support system.
Absolutely.
And once you have your mind set on a goal, whoever you're going to meet has to support that. They have to support that goal. They have to support you in whatever those endeavors are. Or else, you know, what is it going to be at the end of the day? Right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that doesn't even just apply to just a relationship or a marriage. Yeah. That also applies to other people in your life, you know, your friends, your family. And, you know, and that's where we're kind of simpatico as well, where, I mean, you obviously had the support of your mom and so on and so forth, but I didn't necessarily have the support from anybody. Well, in the sense of like, you know, I mean, if you want to do that, then go right ahead, but make sure you have a backup plan. You know, like the confidence is kind of not there, but, you know, I'm usually a person that doesn't like to be, you know, there's two kind of people in this world. Yeah. So it's almost like you need that support system, and then you need people to hate on you so that you could use that for energy. I'm the former. I can't be that person. I don't necessarily feel comfortable being that person where everybody in the whole world is down on me, and then I use that as energy and fuel to prove them wrong. I mean, I've been able to do it. I've been able to succeed in some aspect, but I'm the kind of guy that I need that support system. I need people to lift me up so that I can lift others as well.
110%. And it's even worse with me, I feel, because a lot of times I feel like I'm a people pleaser.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like if there's just one person that's upset with whatever it is that I'm doing, that just brings my whole world down. Yeah. And I mean, I've changed my mindset since, but that's been something I've had to like overcome on my own and just kind of figure out like, listen, you're not always going to make everyone happy.
Right. And, you know, one of the benefits about being an actor overall is you become a professional of compartmentalizing. So I've only known you in such a brief amount of time, but so I see you as this like bubbly personality, great smile, always has positive vibes, and like a guy that you really want to, you know, run through a brick wall for, or even just hang out and chill out and have a beer. Absolutely. But I also know, because you're human, that there's more depth to you. So, you know, it's almost kind of like the sad clown effect, where like you're smiling on the outside, but inside there's like a lot of pain that you've had to compartmentalize. And I can't even fucking talk right now. Excuse me, but it's almost like you create kind of these amalgamation of characters over time, and then afterwards you use that to hone your craft. And it's just funny how some people are able to do that better than most. And I since we have a little bit of similarities going forward, I feel like you probably fit that criteria where, like, from the outside everything is going great. Handsome guy, tall, 6'4", and everything's got beautiful kids. Seems like they got the whole world in their hands, but you never really know what's going on internally. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's those moments where, like, man, how the fuck do I do this?
So here's what my life has been like, right? Because I've heard this a lot. Even when I used to work when I first started working at Capital One, for example, right?
Yeah.
I had a lot of people. I was so happy to have that job. And I'm going to use Capital One as an example, right? When I started at Capital One, I was in the call center. Now, most people in the call center are like, oh, I'm answering phones. They just, a lot of people tend to be a little bit miserable. And,
a little pessimistic.
Yeah, and I understand that, right? But at the same time, I was so thankful for having that opportunity that everything that was going on with me personally was overshadowed with all the positive that was coming out of my situation. Starting this new job, being able to have a career that I can really build on, because before that, I was in the factory job I was telling you about. Me and my ex-wife, the mother of my kids, we were both working that job at the same time. We got laid off at the same exact time.
Wow.
So it was a struggle. And then even with the city bus, I was working that. I had actually gotten let go from that job.
Wow.
And it was over something silly. It was over red light camera tickets. Because you can only get a certain amount within a year.
I get it. Fucking federal jobs, I get it.
So, and I got let go from there, and that was another struggle for me. So going through those two times in my life where I was really struggling financially, and then to come on to this job where I was working at a bank, I had a stable schedule. They appreciated me. That meant the world to me. Yeah. So everything that was going on with my life personally, it was, again, overshadowed by all the good that was coming out of it. And I think that relates to me now where I have a lot going on, right? I'm a single father. Not to get too personal, but like in the middle of a custody battle right now and everything, right? However, with everything going on that I'm pursuing, right? I'm pursuing my dream right now. I'm getting back into acting. I'm working on an independent film right now. I'm going to acting classes. I'm studying independently. Having that drive and that goal in mind is what's driving me and what's keeping me thriving and happy and just happy to be alive. I see so many people in other situations that have to struggle so badly. And the fact that I'm here, I'm alive, I'm living, I'm breathing, you know what I mean? Just being here, being alive, I have to think back on those things, and I have to really be thankful. I have a friend of mine that was actually just bringing this up the other day in our acting class. Shout out to Hannibal. But he was saying, he brought up an example. He said, he thought about what he's going through in life. And then he saw, he thinks of this guy that he saw in Times Square. There's a gentleman that plays the drums. Right? He has no arms, no legs, but he plays the drums and he's out there killing it. Yeah. And then you look at yourself and you're like, what do I have to complain about? Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Because, it's fairly recent where the job that I'm doing right now, my 9 to 5, it's good. It's I have nothing to complain. I'm getting by just fine. My financial situation is totally intact right now. But a year ago, I had another job where it was my only source of income, and I was only making like $800 a week. I can't live off that. I was facing eviction and repossession and all that shit. But the crazy thing is that I first of all, I didn't stop looking for something better. I just figured, I need to get back out there. I need to get on my hustle and everything. Yeah. But I also was counting my blessings because, like, as my financial situation wasn't good, but at least it's better than being that 24-year-old fucking parking valet cars that's for even less pay and not being happy with what he's doing. Yep. So with you being ever the optimist, I also feel like, and I think that you'll agree with me on this, is that when you were let go from those other jobs and then afterwards you got something that where you appreciated, being the optimist, the ever so optimist, it was almost like you got to look at it in a way where, like, you know what, maybe there's a higher life form or whatever's up in the sky that was actually getting this situation out of the way for you so that you can go to what you really need to do. So that's when you really need to count on your blessings and so on and so forth.
Absolutely.
That's the way that I look at it.
110% always need to count your blessings. Mm-hmm. Always, always, always.
Yeah, and it's just unfortunate that those people in the call center were being pessimistic, but maybe they just needed to, be grateful or whatever the case may be, to actually realize, hey, it's not ideal, but at least you're getting income. At least you have a job. I know plenty of people that are on the unemployment line that wish that they could be in your situation.
Yeah. Yep. That's where my favorite line in Scarface comes. He's like, "Hey, you got a job, man."
Shout out to Ernie.
Yeah, right? Love that.
I love that movie.
Thank you, Tony.
Man, I'm gonna stop it right here because I think that we're gonna go off on a quote off the entire time.
I'm
guilty of that.
Yeah, me too.
I tell people all the time, and even Najee will attest to this, that one of the things that I know that people actually I should say a love language for me is movie quotes. I can quote anything from Scarface to Anchorman. If people are simpatico with me, then you're somebody I want in my life. If you don't, then well, it was nice knowing you.
Yeah. Oh, trust me, I can go on movie quotes all day.
Yeah, I want to turn it into a drinking game. Actually, one of these days.
That's a spin-off show. There you go.
Yeah, we're gonna brew something.
There we go.
Yeah. So, but I also love the idea. I love what you just said earlier about, like, you're finally pursuing your dream and everything, because even something that simple is a blessing in itself, because maybe you're not exactly where you want to be just yet. You're chasing your dream, but there's so many people out there in the world that they can't even put that sentence together. They don't even know what their dream is. Yeah. Hopefully they figure it out one day, but you're one of the very few fortunate ones in this world to actually figure out and know what it is that you want to do with your life, and you're pursuing that as opposed to just, talking shit about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have such a thirst for knowledge for it right now, which is why I'm like reading these books. I'm doing this all like independently kind of. And, of course, taking the acting classes as well.
Sure, yeah.
So.
And I think that's important too, because like I said, it goes back to, for people getting it in for the wrong reasons. Like, I'm definitely trying to pursue acting classes, and I'm basically a sponge, so to speak, taking a little bit from you, other people that I know that are industry. However, I also know people that they just feel like, hey, I was in a short film, I was also in a feature film, I'm automatically a star. And
that's they got some lessons to learn, because the thing is, here's my thing, right? Regardless of the career path, right? You're always a student. You always have to remain a student in whatever the craft is, and that's what I aspire to. Right. I don't care how far I get in this. I want to keep learning. I'll keep taking classes until I'm, till I'm an old man. You know what I mean? Yeah, because I think you can never stop learning. You can never stop learning, no matter how big you get, no matter how much you think I got this, I figured it out. You never stop learning, and I always want to be learning, because that's what keeps me motivated. Right? Yeah. Is learning and learning more, and learning as much as I possibly can, and that's what I aspire to do with these classes. Like, I want to take classes on improv. I want to take classes on film. I want to take classes with, on theater, everything, script study, all of that, because I just want to learn it all. I want to absorb it all.
Do you also think that in a way you kind of want to live vicariously through your mother because there was a point in her life where she couldn't pursue her dream because your father didn't want her to?
Yeah, yeah. Part of me, my mom has been a huge inspiration in my life. She's one of the kindest people I know. And that's kind of where I get it from. I have to be honest. You know what I mean? She's such a kind-hearted person, and I aspire to be like that. And yeah, I think in a lot of ways, I've never thought about it that way actually, but I think. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually.
I think so, because it's one thing to be brought into this world and then afterwards you kind of get groomed and you make your bones in it. But at the length that you're going through, it feels like there's a little bit more motivation behind it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's just an educated guess on my part. Yeah. And I think it might be true.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? I never thought about that till now. Right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
I'm glad that we were able to.
You brought me to that realization. Look at us.
Is your mom still around?
Yeah.
Okay, so make sure you have that conversation with her, like, "Ma, you won't believe what I just found out." And I just had an epiphany.
I'll just have her watch this.
Mama, please like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. So you done some theater, and so what about like that one moment where? Well, obviously, you're always getting better and you're a student of the game, whatever, but has there been that moment in your career yet where you actually feel like, okay, I said I was going to do this, I'm doing it, but now it's for real this time? Was there that one moment that hit you where a light bulb went off and you were like, yes. Yeah, it's official tissue right now?
Yes, absolutely. So I auditioned for the independent film that I'm working on now, Garcia's.
Okay.
Garcia's coming soon. So I auditioned for it, and honestly, I auditioned for it. Shout out to Carlos, the actor, by the way. He's the one who wrote this. Just to give a quick backstory, he's the one who wrote this script. It's based on his family, his father and his uncle. Back in the 80s in Spanish Harlem. So it's really cool. But so I tried out for this movie. Honestly, I just wanted to be a part of it. I would have taken an extra. I would have taken a person with one line, maybe. And that's all I was expecting, to be completely honest with you. I undersold myself for sure. Like I said, I'll try out for someone that has one or two lines. That's it. And I tried out for a couple parts. And then Carlos and the other two people that were watching, they were like, okay. They're like, can you try out for this other part here? And I had no idea what the part was. So my first thought was, damn, I bombed. I bombed. I must have done horribly. I'm like, man, they're probably trying to give me an even smaller part, So they gave me the script. They said, take a moment to look over it. And I looked over it a bit, and I came right back in, did the audition. Wow, that's really good. We'll be in contact. So at that point, I still didn't know kind of where I stood. He called me the next morning and said, the two parts that you tried out for at first, there were a couple of other people that really, bodied those parts. However, I want to give you the part of Rusty. And still, I didn't know who Rusty was. I'm just happy to have a part.
Right.
But that's when he tells me, he said, Rusty's one of the main characters in this movie. Wow. You're going to play my brother in the movie, basically. You're going to be in the movie almost more than I am.
Wow.
And that blew me away. He said, you really bodied it. And, I told him I've never worked on film before. And he's like, there's no way. Yeah, I never worked on film before. This is going to be my first time.
What was during that audition before you landed it? Like, what was your thought process going into it? Because, like I said, us actors, we compartmentalize. We go we go deep in our brain because to kind of give you an example to contextualize. I recently did a short film where you don't see me, but you hear my voice, and my character was playing a father that it disapproves of his son dating a certain woman. And I come off as very pessimistic and argumentative over the voicemail and so on and so forth. And what I did, what landed me that role, was I channeled my father. Like I went back to that time where my father was calling me and I couldn't pick up. He leaves a voicemail. I listen to it and he goes, "Jason, answer your fucking phone, okay? What do you think I am, an asshole? Call me back." And that stayed with me for a long time. And I kind of went back into that and I applied that same energy to the role. And ultimately, that's how I got it. So, what was your thought process going when you landed the role of Rusty?
So, one thing I kind of realized about this, because I, found out as much as I could about the movie and, a little bit about what it was about, right, is that it takes place in the 80s.
Okay.
So one of the first things I think of is I think of the OGs on the block, right? Because they grew up in the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? So I kind of think about, what do they sound like, right? How do they talk, when they're on the street? How do they talk? What do they sound like? And then I think about that and I'm like, all right, if I was that same person, how would I say this? Because you got to make it your own.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's got to be your own. You have to think about the era, who the person is. Of course, you want to know who the character is, but you have to make it your own. It has to be coming from yourself. Mm-hmm. So I kind of put my own spin on it. You know what I mean? I took that persona and kind of put it inside here, thought about who that person is and the particular scene that I'm auditioning for. I believe it was like I was acting really sly in that particular scene. So I just thought about this, how would they be sly? Or in other words, how would I be sly if I was in that position? If I was one of these OGs, right? Back in the 80s, what would I sound like? And I kind of used that and thought about, after looking at the lines, right? The greatest part, the thing that was really unique to me is I didn't memorize these lines, right? They were just given to me. I took a look over them really quickly and I used the sheet, right? The sheet was there, but I kind of used it just as a reference, looked at it real quick and then delivered my lines looking, towards the people I was, auditioning for. Mm-hmm. And, yeah, that's really what it was. It was just about making it my own. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And with, keeping in mind the reference points when we think about takes place in the 80s, people from the street. So, just keeping all those things in mind.
Yeah. And I love that because ultimately, in short, you did your fucking homework.
Yeah.
That's all it was.
Yep.
You did your homework, you aced the test.
Yep.
And that's all you needed to do.
Yep.
Yeah, and one of I forget exactly who said this, but it's something that I'll take with me as far as I go into my acting career, especially when it comes to auditions. I remember now. Shout out to Sasha Allen. That's who said this. She told me in a virtual acting class that just give it your all, just give it your best, because even if you don't win the role, you will win the room. And those connections, the people that are in there, maybe you might not get the role, but you're going to leave a lasting impression to everybody that was in there and saw your craft. And I'll even add this as a little bit of a caveat. And it kind of ties into the film where we're both in, that we met on set, and then that's what led you to come in here in first class, second place. So we were on a film set, and I actually auditioned for a part and I didn't get it. I was offered something else, but I ultimately didn't get the part that I was going for. And I was actually on set watching the actor playing the lines that I auditioned for, and I saw he's the one that won the role. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. I thought I did a fine job, but if he won it, he deserved it. That's it.
Sure.
Be humble about it. But I'll be honest, there was a little bit of fire, for lack of a better term, in the back of my head. And so when it came time for me to actually do my role, I was like, you know what? I'm still essentially a newbie. These people are much more well-versed. They've accomplished so much in the acting field than I have. I got to show up a little bit. And I happen to be one of those people, believe it or not, where I will probably lose a limb if it requires for the role. So that's why when my character got what he deserved, I almost sustained an injury doing it. But you know what?
I remember. I was like, "Are you all right?"
But you know what? I knew I had to go hard because
Yeah.
I'm in a room full of people that all eyes are on me, and I want to be able to win the room.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I think I did.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
110%. You killed it.
Thank you,
killed
man.
it. And you really showed what you could do. And that's the important part. I was watching a master class once about acting. And one of the things that she said was, it doesn't matter the part, right? And you know, they have that saying, there's no such thing as small parts, only small actors, right?
Right, right.
In this particular case, she was exemplifying, right? If you only have one line, right? You know, make that line stand out.
Mm-hmm.
Give that person, even if it's one line, give that person a backstory. You know, if you're asking, I think the example was, hey, do you have some headphones? So like, why is he asking for the headphones? You know, where is he coming from? What does he need the headphones for? What's going on in his life? You know what I mean? Kind of thinking about that backstory, even if it's one line. You know what I mean? Kind of making even that one line your own, and really, you know, like you said earlier, doing your research and kind of figuring out like what you want that person to be, and what, like, and I'm sure you did something similar with your character, because
Sure, yeah.
you know, you did amazing.
Thank you, man.
You did amazing. It was a very, you know, it was a very small part.
Right, especially since my character comes from a world where I know nothing of that. Like I did not live that character's lifestyle.
Right.
So I basically, you know what it is. This is a little bit of a cheat code. I'll spill the beans over here. Where I basically acted like all the other douchebags that I grew up hating, and I applied that to this actor, to this character, I should say, and it worked.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where that compartmentalizing comes from.
And that's all it takes.
Yeah.
That's all it takes. You know, just like with me, like with the character I'm playing in the movie.
Yeah.
I've never dealt drugs, you know what I mean? I've never been out there like, you know, hustling on the street or anything, but I know a lot of people that have.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I've, you know, family, friends, all that type of stuff that, you know, people that I know that have been in that game, so to speak.
Yeah.
So
now, kind of switching gears, but also staying within the realm of you know, our careers and our trajectories and our dreams. We live now unfortunately now we live in a microwave society, and everything, it has to be instant gratification, and we also have to market in a way that we didn't have to do back then. I mean, like if you're an actor right now, you can't just like put out an audition tape or keep going auditions and doing class and everything. You got to do a little bit more than that. You actually have to put yourself out there. You have to be your own marketer, your own agent, your own manager, all of that stuff. So with that being said, like if you go on your social media, your Instagram specifically, you know, not only are you showing your you know who you are as a person, but you're also in the content creation world. Like I see on your social media that you're doing all these reels, and you're working with people that I know mutually as well, and I'm so glad that it's working for you. But to me, it's also a little bit scary, for lack of a better term, because yeah, I'm an actor, but I don't know if I necessarily want to put myself out on like social media like that, you know? And I feel like, unfortunately, that's a step that I have to take, because that's what the industry's looking for, you know? And I feel like maybe that's like, do you look at it as like that? Like, do you look at it as a small price to pay, or do you genuinely enjoy doing the content creation on social media?
It's a really good question, actually. So when I started doing the content creation, I wasn't necessarily thinking about the acting route at that very moment, to be honest with you. I was doing the content creation because I just love doing it.
Okay.
I'm really into history as well, especially our history, right? As Latinos, Puerto Rican history, all that type of stuff, right? So I started doing a lot of these like music, like history videos and stuff like that, just to kind of educate people. But on a larger scale, one of the other reasons why I really wanted to do this was because I wanted to kind of bridge this gap and kind of show what we can do as a people together. And, you know, a couple of the videos I did, for example, I did one where I was comparing Boogaloo, you know, the one genre of music that kind of faded off, right?
Yeah.
Like Boogaloo is a mixture of both Latino, especially like Puerto Rican and Cuban, and African American. And that was created here in New York. You know what I mean? It was created in New York because, you know, these people were living in the same areas, you know? So, you know, African Americans were hearing the Latin music, Latinos were hearing African American music, you know? And they bridged that together. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And that Boogaloo kind of was an example of what beauty we can make together as a people. And guess what else did that? Hip hop.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? We came together and we made this beautiful art form that still thrives to this day. And that's what I really wanted to use these videos to express. Now, on the other end of it, as far as my videos go, I'm really into comedy. I've always been a big fan of comedy. So, you know, I try to figure out, I come out with these ideas for skits, you know, every now and then. And luckily I have a amazing, I'm very fortunate to have, you know, some amazing friends in the industry that to kind of like bounce ideas off of and even, you know, feature in, you know, some of these videos with me. And it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. I just have fun doing it. But to answer your question, now I'm realizing, now that I'm getting back into acting, I'm like, actually, this is kind of working to my advantage. You know, I have some videos here that's showing that, hey, I can get up and speak about X, Y, and Z and, you know, speak up about this, speak up about that, and do comedy and these different things and kind of show my range. And I didn't even realize it at the time that I was kind of building this for myself. And as now I look back, I'm like, oh, this is actually kind of benefiting me in a way, even though they're not necessarily like movie shorts or anything like that. It's still kind of showing my range a little bit, at least. So
nice.
Yeah, but I honestly just started out because I just really enjoy doing it.
That's awesome. Do your daughters enjoy what you do, or are they like, Dad, you're so cringe?
Dude, let me tell you, they're not impressed by anything I do. Listen, I was featured in, I had a very small extra part in Fat Joe video fairly recently.
Okay.
And they were completely unfazed. They're like, oh, okay.
You know what that reminds me of? You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of like when Ben Affleck got hired to play Batman in Batman versus Superman. And somebody asked him if his daughters were excited that he's going to play a superhero now. He was like, they don't care. They just want to watch Frozen.
That's it. But that's how it is.
Yeah.
That's how it is. I think, they're not impressed by anything.
Well, maybe they may be not impressed, but I'm pretty sure they're proud of their dad.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
and that's the thing. Like the same, I can say the same for my mom as well. You know, my mom's really been in some amazing plays over the years when I was younger, and at the time, of course, I was like whatever. Like I'm just doing my own thing. But now I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I was so fortunate to be around that, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I really grew up to really appreciate it. So I'm sure they will at some point, but I'll give them time.
Now, we know that this is a tough industry to be in. No matter how much passion we have, no much how drive we have, it's a very tough business to actually succeed in. So if there's anybody out there that's watching and listening to this right now, whether it's acting or maybe there's anything else that they're passionate about they want to do in their life, but they have to go through the peaks and valleys and they may feel discouraged or scared, what kind of advice would you share to those people that are listening and watching right now?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Give yourself grace. Give yourself grace. There's no fast route to get anywhere in life, whether it's acting career or anything, right? Give yourself the grace and have that patience. Patience is key. I know this is cliche, but patience is key. You need to give yourself time to grow in whatever the industry is. And that goes for any industry, but especially acting, right? You need to give yourself that time and that experience. That's how you're going to become great, is doing it over and over and over again. You know, you see, I've heard plenty of stories of actors that look back at previous tapes of themselves, whether it's audition tapes or, you know, maybe prior movies that they were in, and they look back and like, man, I had a lot to work on then. You know, it takes time. You know, and a lot of people get discouraged because, you know, they may go to an acting class or they may go, you know, do a movie and they don't necessarily get the feedback they were hoping for, you know, and they feel like, well, that's it. I suck. I'm not a good actor. So I guess that's it for me. I'm going to move on to the next thing. You got to give yourself that room to grow and listen to each and every piece of advice that you're hearing. You know, I'd rather get harsh advice and harsh feedback and then use it to grow. As opposed to people say, oh yeah, it was cool. That was good. You know, and then I'm not really growing from it. I don't care if my performance was good. I don't care if my performance was great. I still want to hear the opportunities I had. Being, you know, being direct is being kind, right? So I think, you know, a lot of people hear that direct feedback as a negative, but it's really coming from a place of love, because that same feedback that they're giving you is something these are gems that people are dropping on you. So listen to these gems, each and every piece of advice and feedback that you're getting. Just take that and use it to grow and give yourself grace and be patient.
Drop a bomb on that, Deji. Drop a bomb on that. Zeus, very wise words, and I feel like in a way, you're also kind of speaking to the 24-year-old Jason in hindsight 2020 right now. Wow. And I think it's actually a beautiful thing, and hopefully that could transpire to anybody else that's listening on it. You're a good actor. Hey, congratulations, you got a job.
Yeah, there we go. Hey.
All right, so we're about to close out this episode in a little bit, dude. I feel like I could talk to you for hours on end, and this is something that we could definitely continue on air, off air, whatever the case may be. But so far, real quick before we get into our final segment, I just want to say that this was an absolute pleasure talking to you. I loved everything. I felt like we had more time, but that's how much fun we were having with this conversation.
I know, so, it went by quick.
I know it's not fair, but you know, that's why I need to work harder and make more money so that I could afford more studio time.
hey, I get it, man. I get it.
But anyway, brother, I really appreciate it. So let's get into our final segment.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's everybody's favorite segment, This or That. If you've never seen the show before, what happens is this is inspired off of Black Sheeps. You can get with this, you can get with that. It's multiple choice questions based around our guests. Have a little bit of basic ones and also some tailored ones around you. So don't think hard. It's not the SATs. Just come out with it. And, you know, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just an opportunity for people to get a little bit more about who Zeus is.
Cool.
All right.
Cool.
So you ready, Deji? Najee? I'm sorry. Excuse me. All right. I'm not ready, apparently. So you ready, Najee? All right, there we go. Are you ready, Zeus?
I'm ready, man.
All right.
I'm ready.
Ladies and gentlemen, for This or That, you, Mr. Zeus. Playlist or podcast?
Playlist.
Slides or Crocs?
Crocs.
Beach or pool?
Beach.
Dogs or cats?
Cats.
All right. Are you an early bird or a night owl?
Ooh. Night owl.
Instagram or TikTok?
Instagram.
To give or to receive?
To give.
Introvert or extrovert?
Extrovert. Amnivert.
Batman or Superman?
Oh. Superman.
Iron Man or Captain America?
Iron Man.
Mofongo or Mangu?
Mofongo.
Are you glass half empty or glass half full?
Oh, half full all the way.
Would you rather be embarrassed or be afraid?
Ooh. Be afraid.
Okay. Fear is healthy. Fear can be healthy.
Yeah.
Would you rather be too hot or be too cold?
Be too hot.
All right. Do you prefer the window seat or the aisle seat?
window seat.
You're 6'4" and you get the window seat. I think you would need that space.
That view. I need that view, and then people are passing by me, especially on the airplane, and I'm like this the whole time. I'm like moving over because everyone's squeezing by. I'm like, nah, man, I need that window seat so I could just be in my own little corner.
All right, fair enough. Book smart or street smart?
Ooh. I have to say book smart because it can relate to so much on the street as well.
I love that.
Yep.
I love that. Reading or writing?
Reading.
All right. Ice water or room temperature?
Room temperature.
All right. James Cameron or Steven Spielberg?
Ooh. Steven Spielberg.
Martin Scorsese or Quentin Tarantino?
Quentin Tarantino.
Tino Martinez or Don Mattingly?
Tino Martinez.
I love that. I love that you said that. And then finally, teamwork or solo project?
Ooh. Teamwork.
Teamwork makes the dream work. Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for this and that. And that is going to do it for this episode of First Class, Second Place. Thank you so much to my guest, Zeus Sosias, for coming through, brother.
Absolutely.
Really appreciate this, man.
Thank you for having me.
And no problem, brother. Anybody you want to give a shout out to before we close out?
Oh, man. Shout out to my daughters, Adalise, Tatiana, and my mom, Sonia, She's a big inspiration for me. So, of course.
I could tell.
And those are the main ones.
Love it, bro. Love it.
Family.
Yeah, and real quick, where can they find you on social media again?
Yes, it's Zeus_S.O.S. Right? Yeah. I think that's what it is. Not used to saying it out loud.
Yeah. Let me see if I could. Give you a layup real quick.
Yeah.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, you can find him at Zeus ZEUS_S.OS.
Yeah.
There we go. All right. There we go.
Yep.
Actor. Brand ambassador, a lot of stuff. You got a lot of stuff on your resume. Shout out to everybody that you've been working with from everybody from Jasmine and Mark Rain to Black Rose, everybody.
Yes.
But brother, the pleasure was all mine. Thank you so much for coming through here.
Thank you.
You came a long way just to be on the show. So that's really humbling to hear, man.
Hey, really man, I was really excited to do this show with you, man. So the pleasure is all mine. The honor is all mine. I'm a fan of the show myself. So.
Thank you, brother. I really appreciate that. Part 2 is coming soon, ladies and gentlemen. Part 2 is coming soon.
There we go.
And ladies and gentlemen, you can find me at I am Jason Enrique on all social media platforms. Don't forget to like, subscribe on YouTube at Jason Enrique. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you next week. This has been the First Class, Second Place podcast. We out.
Bye.